Welcome to Heaven's Headquarters, and we are going to proceed with Lesson 2 of the Genealogy Class. For those of you who have never been through this process, I want to show you a little bit about how the timeline in genealogy works to help us understand relationships and time factors and how we arrive at some of the conclusions we get at in the Bible. We find in Genesis chapter 5 it says,
And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth.
okay, up here across the top I have 100, 200, 300, 400, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so forth in hundreds of years. So Adam lived 130 years,
Seth.
okay, which is 130, and he begat a son named Seth. Okay, Seth lived how long?
And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters.
Okay, plus 800. You add 800 to 130, and you get 930 years.
And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died.
So this puts Adam's lifespan to be this long, from here to here. Okay? Now we have Seth lives 130 years.
No, and Seth lived 105 years.
Seth lived 105 years after Adam lived 130. So 130, 230.
235.
So this would be 235. Okay, so this is 105 more. Brings us to 235 total.
And he begat Enos.
He begat Enos. Okay?
And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years.
87.
807.
Okay, so we have 235 plus 807. 2 carry 1, 4, 1042. So Seth lives to 1042. Okay? Enos lives.
And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 900 years. No, Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan.
Okay, Enos lives 90 years. 235 and 90 is 325.
And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters.
Spell Canaan.
C-A-I-N-A-N.
Canaan, yeah. Okay, and he lived afterwards how long?
815.
So at 325 plus 815, we get 0, 3, 1130.
40. 1140.
40. Keep me straight.
And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahalalel.
70 years, getting shorter. Okay, which would put him to 395. This was 70 years. And begat Mahalalel. Spell, you got to spell that one.
M-A-H-A-L-A-L-E-L.
Mahalalel. Okay, he lived after that.
And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalalel 840 years and begat sons and daughters.
1235.
And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died.
Okay.
And Mahalalel lived 65 years and begat Jared.
So we're 395 total time.
Well,
65 is 0, carry 1, 6, 460.
And Mahalalel lived after he begat Jared 830 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died.
Well, he lived to 1290.
And Jared lived 162 years, and he begat Enoch.
How do you spell Jared?
Jared.
Okay. And he lived how long?
162 years, and begat Enoch.
152?
162.
162. We're at 460, 162, 2, 1.
And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 960 and 2 years, and he died.
How long did he live afterwards?
After he begat Enoch, 800 years.
8, 14, 22. And Jared is the one who had begat Enoch.
And Enoch lived 65 years, and begat Methuselah.
Okay. He beget. Now I know you got to spell Methuselah.
M-E-T-H.
M-E-T-H.
U-S-E.
U-S-E.
L-A-H.
L-A-H. Okay. 22 and 65 is 7, 8.
And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years, and begat sons and daughters.
7. $787, and this is 300, and he lived a total of 365. It's easy to remember because that's the days of the year. And Enoch was not, for the Lord took him.
Because he walked with God. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years, and begat Lamech.
How many years?
187.
187. 4, carry 1. 7. 874. Okay.
And after he begat Lamech 782 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died.
Okay. 969 total. And we find that he lived after he begat Methuselah how long?
Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years.
782. Okay, all the days of Methuselah were 969. So you have 687, 969, 6, carry 1, 8, 9, let's see, 5, carry 1. 1656 to Methuselah's death.
And all the days of Methuselah were, I already read that. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. 182. And guess what his name was?
This was, okay, now wait a minute. 687, 187, 874. Okay, this is 874. Okay, Lamech lived how long?
182.
6. That puts us to the year 1056.
Years. And he begat Noah. He begat a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years.
Okay, so 1056, 595.
And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died.
This is 1561. So Lamech dies before Methuselah. Okay?
And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Okay, Noah was 500 years old, 1056 to 1556. And we have Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And we find that when we study this, that Shem is actually the second born. Japheth was first, and Ham was third. Ham was the youngest. But they're listed as Shem, Ham, and Japheth because Shem is the one who became chosen. Okay? This was 100 years before the flood. So Shem was 100 years old, basically, when the flood came. Okay? Now from this, we find out that Shem would have known Methuselah. Erase some of this scratching over here. Shem would have known Methuselah, and Methuselah, it was this line right here, would have known Adam. Noah, of course, would have known Methuselah, but he would not have known Adam. But Noah's daddy, Lamech, could have known Adam. So in this, and of course all of these people prior could have known Adam. So there was lots of people who knew Adam, who should have known Adam, who could have told the story. And so the story we get after the flood isn't that many tellings away. Okay? It's not that many tellings away. And this is how we know that the flood came 1,656 years after the creation of Adam. Okay? So you'll hear me use that term every now and then, 1,656. Methuselah died when Enoch named his son Methuselah. The word Methuselah means,
At the end, he shall come. No.
at his
At his death.
it shall be. Methuselah, Enoch was prophesying the flood, and Noah would have known that when Methuselah dies, the flood's coming. Actually, as the rabbis teach, it was like within a week. Okay? They had like a week or so to mourn Methuselah, bury him. They got on the ark, and away they went. Okay? So, this is the progression. How do we ascertain what the distance is from the flood to Adam? Through the genealogy. Okay? How do we understand who could have known who? By seeing the length of their life and by studying the genealogy. These relationships become apparent to us. So this is how the process works. Now we're going to go after the flood. Is it Genesis chapter 10? Where we find that we get the lineage going from Noah to Abraham, or from Shem to Abraham.
Yes.
Okay?
Can you read it?
Yeah, let's read that and go through that so we can get everybody up to speed where we're at.
Now
So-
these are the generations of the sons of Noah.
Now if you remember over here a while ago, at
56.
1656, we had the flood. Now we're going to transfer this back over here to the beginning. And we're starting at 1656. That's back to Adam. And from here, we're going to proceed. What do we know?
That Shem is 100 years old.
Yeah, read what it should tell us exactly here.
Okay, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Medea, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Rephath, and Togarmah.
Now these names are significant because they show us the beginnings of the tribes of the earth that go out and found countries. They say Gomer was related to Germany, and that Meshech could have been related to even to Russia. Okay, Median could have been. I think that I'll have to look it up for sure. It might have been the Medes and the Persians. Okay, and that was out of Japheth. Okay.
And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim.
They say Tarshish was Spain.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put.
And Mizraim or Mizraim was Egypt. Mizraim was Egypt. And then Cush and Put. Put, I think, is Libya.
And Canaan.
And Canaan is where they settled in the land of Canaan.
And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Raama, and Sabticha. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
And Nimrod founded the kingdom of Babel, which is where Babylon comes from.
And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, and the city of Rehoboth and Calah.
Okay, Asher was Nineveh, which was the capital of Assyria. Okay, so when you start seeing these connections, then you can see which countries came from Ham, which countries came from Japheth, which countries came from Shem. Okay?
You'll keep going.
Keep going. Somewhere we'll get to where Shem lived and begat sons and daughters and was so old when the flood came.
And Resen begat Nineveh. Resen between Nineveh and Calah, the same as a great city. And Mizraim begat
That's Egypt.
Ludim, and Ananim, and Lehabim, and Naphtuhim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim,
That's where the Philistines come from.
and Caphtorim. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites, and the Girgasites, and the Hivites, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite, and afterward were families of the Canaanites spread abroad.
And Heth was where the Hittites came from, which ended up being Lower Turkey.
And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar, unto Gaza, and as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah.
It was the sons of Heth that sold the field to Abraham so he'd have a place to bury Sarah.
And Admah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. Unto Shem also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder even unto him were children born.
Okay, Shem was the brother of Japheth, the elder. That tells us that Japheth was the firstborn. He was the elder. And later we have a reference that tells us that Ham was the younger. So that tells us that Shem was born the second, or the middle child.
The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begat Almadad, and Sheleph, and Hazarmaveth, and Jirah, and Hadoram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Sephir, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, and in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar.
Okay, now wait just a minute. Now you skipped a bunch, didn't you? No. Oh, okay, chapter. Yeah. Okay.
Chapter 11 is the Tower of Babel.
Okay, now where does it start telling? The Lord came to see the city of the tower. And Shem, okay, verse 18. No, 10. Verse 10 of chapter 11.
These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood.
Okay, now catch that. Shem was 100 years old. Shem is 100 years old 2 years after the flood. So that means we're in the year 1658. Okay? 1658, Shem begets Arphaxad, right?
And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters.
Okay, he begets for 500 years, which means Shem dies when he is 600 years old, which is 1658 plus 500, 8, 5, 1, carry 1, 2158. This would be the year 2158 from Adam. Okay?
And Arphaxad lived 530 years and begat Selah.
Lived
530.
okay? But that's how old when he begat him?
Yeah. Arphaxad lived 530 years and begat Selah.
Now,
And Arphaxad lived after he begat Selah 403 years and begat sons and daughters.
let's wait here. Lived 5 and 30 years and begat Selah.
Ah, 35.
Okay, so Shem was 100 years old when he begat Arphaxad. Arphaxad was only 35. He begat Selah. Okay, keep going. Selah lived how long?
Arphaxad lived after he begat Selah 403 years. And Selah lived 30 years and begat Eber.
Eber is significant because Eber is the name that we get the word Hebrews from. Okay, the word Hebrews comes from the word Eber, the sons of Eber. Okay, Eber lives.
And Eber lived 34 years, and begat Peleg.
Okay,
And after he begat Peleg, 430 years.
Peleg. And you remember what Randy was reading earlier? He said the days of Peleg was the earth divided. Okay? This is the time, this is right after the Tower of Babel, when men were scattered over the earth and the earth was divided. Scientists are right. The earth was one big supercontinent. It just wasn't millions of years ago. Okay? Peleg lived
30 years and begat Reu.
Okay?
And Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug.
32 years. And begat Serug. Okay?
Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor.
30 years, we get Nahor.
Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah.
29. We get Terah.
And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abraham,
Okay.
Nahor, and Haran.
Okay, 70, and at the end of 70 years, he has Abraham. And who? Nahor?
Nahor and Haran.
And A-R-A-M. Aram.
No, H-A-R.
Oh,
Haran.
How you spell it?
H-A-R-A-N.
R-A-M. Okay?
N. That's an N, not an M.
In.
There you go.
Okay, these three were born. Now, in my study, this is by the time he's 70. I think that Abraham's actual birth is sometime before this. Okay? However, by the time Terah is 70, the three children are born. There's people who don't hold to that view, but I have other reasons for believing it. When you add these years together, from the flood, we have 2 years, from 15 to 16 to 56. Then we have 100 years. We have 35, 30, 34, 30, 32, 30, 29, and possibly up to 70 years. Okay? How good's your math? 9 2s 11, 15, 22. 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 322 years. So if you take 1656 plus 322, you get 8, 7, 9, you get 1978. Okay, we are at 2158. So if you take 2158 minus 1978, 0, 8, 1. A minimum of 180 years to Abraham. In other words, Abraham died when he was 175, which means that Shem outlived Abraham. Now, you don't think about that in a casual reading of the Scripture. The only way you arrive at that conclusion is when you study the genealogy. Okay? The rabbis teach, and I concur, that Shem was Melchizedek. Melchizedek is the one who blessed Abraham. In other words, when Shem received the blessing from Noah, Shem did not pass it to these guys. He's going to outlive them anyway, most of them. Okay? He saved it until he even outlived Abraham. But Abraham was the chosen man of faith. Now, where did Abraham get this faith? When we study the genealogy, we find that Noah lived. Anybody know how long Noah lived?
913.
Noah lived 950. The flood came when Noah was how old? 600. That means Noah lives after the flood 350 years. 350 years. That puts
1306.
1656 and
1306.
350. Now I'm starting at 1656.
Oh, you're adding 2.
I'm adding. I got 6, 0, carry 1.
2006.
2006. So 2158, okay, to Adam, when you go back to 06, this is 180, you end up over about in here somewhere. And you end up that Noah could have known Abraham. There's a conflict in Scripture when we read it that says that Noah, an apparent conflict, because it says that Noah was 70 years old, or Adam was 70, Terah was 70 years old, had Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. And then it says that Terah died. I don't know, I have to look it up when Terah dies. But he's like 200 years old or something when he dies. And another scripture says that Abraham leaves his father to go into the land of Canaan. And yet, if we study this out, then it would mean that there's a conflict in the time he left and the time his father died, because in one place it says that he left before his father died, according to the years his father lived. In another place it says he leaves when his father dies. And the two don't reconcile unless we would accept the idea that Abraham's spiritual father was Noah, and the time frame fits very nicely that Abraham left his father, went into the land when Noah died, because Abraham sought after the truth, and Abraham went and looked up Noah. Noah told him to go find Shem, and that's why he ends up in the land of Canaan. Okay, coupled with the direct revelation of God to get there. So this all is studied out in the timeline and in the genealogy, and we get the timeline from the genealogy. Don't think genealogy is boring. It just takes a little work to go through it. This is kind of a bird's eye smattering view to just kind of give you an idea of the feel of what it takes to calculate it. But there's things to be gleaned from here when we study this out. Okay? Now, last week we left off with the idea of after Abraham, I wish I had my other timeline here, but after Abraham, we end up with Isaac and Jacob. Okay? And it is very probable that Jacob could have also known Shem. Okay? Isaac no doubt knew Shem. Jacob probably knew Shem. So that would mean that Jacob could have known somebody who knew somebody who knew Adam. The Bible says we have not followed cunningly devised fables. Some people think, well, where did, these guys just pulled this stuff out of thin air. How do they know all of this? Well, this story, they didn't have television in those days. What did you do for entertainment? You sit around the campfire and you told people about who your daddy was. And you told the story, and you told who his daddy was, and you memorized who the genealogy was. That was one of the things you did. That was one of the things that was expected, especially if you were going to try to be a leader of a tribe. You had to memorize these things so you could pass them down to the next generation. Okay? And so it wasn't that many tellings till it gets, Jacob, we have, the sons of Jacob go into Egypt. Next thing you know, Moses leads them out of Egypt, rewrites the story under divine revelation, corrects any miscalculations that might have got into the telling of the story, and we have not followed cunningly devised fables. Now Jacob has 12 sons, right? Which are the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob had a twin brother. What was his name?
Esau.
Esau. Who was Esau the father of?
The Edomites.
The Edomites. Esau was the Edomites. Jacob's twin brother. Okay? Now, what is Esau famous for?
Sold his birthright.
Sold his birthright. Okay? The Bible says he despised the birthright. We find later in reading the story that he wanted the blessing, but he didn't care about the birthright. In other words, he understood there were two different things at work. Okay? When Jacob blessed his sons, we find that he gave the birthright. The birthright went to Joseph. But the blessing, the promise of dominion, the authority, went to Judah. So in other words, Judah became the chosen tribe through which the Messiah, or the Son of God, was going to be born. The whole purpose of this story is to tell us where the Messiah is coming from, to tell us the story of Jesus. We find out that now Judah is the chosen tribe. When studying the tribe of Judah, we find some interesting things that come out of that. One of them is the story of Tamar. So on page 21, we shall resort back to the book for a while. It came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira, and Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shunah. And he took her and went in unto her, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Judah marries a Canaanite. Now, first of all, that was kind of off limits. They were commanded. Remember, Abraham told his servant, don't take a wife for Isaac of the Canaanites, of the people of this land. And yet, right off the bat, what does Judah do? The chosen lineage goes and marries a Canaanite. What's up with that? He called his name and she conceived again, bare a son. And she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezbaz. And when she bare him, or she said, I don't know how you say it, when she bare him, and Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. Well, what do you expect? His mama was a Canaanite. Okay? But was wicked, and the Lord slew him. And Judah said to Onan, go unto thy brother's wife and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. The custom of that day was your brother's inheritance is going to be lost. His name is going to be lost. You're the brother. You are supposed to have children and keep his brother's name alive, and his brother will be considered the father. Okay? Onan knew that the seed or the children would not be his. It came to pass when he went in to his brother's wife that he spilled it on the ground, lest he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord. Wherefore he slew him also. Boy, the sons of Judah ain't long for this world. God slew him. Okay? Then said Judah to Tamar, the daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown. So Shelah's apparently a little bit underage. He says, you wait till Shelah gets a little older. And he said, I'll give you him so that you can have children, lest peradventure he die also as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Now Judah is probably getting a little bit suspicious about this time. Is the problem and Onan, or is the problem really Tamar? I don't know if I want to give Shelah to Tamar or not. This may kill him also, okay? Because the first two didn't fare so well. By now we know the chosen line is Judah. Judah may not have known it yet, because this was before the blessing was handed out, because Jacob hadn't died yet to pass out the blessings, but God knew that Judah was going to be the chosen one. When died, and Onan refused to raise seed or have children in his brother's name, the thing displeased the Lord. Tamar, the wife of demanded she be allowed to have a son of Judah for the father of her child. As we read the story further, we find that she plays the harlot and seduces Judah himself. Judah, when Shelah gets old enough, he's afraid Shelah's going to die too. So he doesn't give Tamar Shelah. And she is determined that she's going to be in the lineage of Judah. She's determined that that's what's going to happen. And so what does she do? She plays a harlot, and she seduces Judah himself in order to conceive. Why was she willing to go to such lengths in order to be part of Judah's lineage? I mean, was she that ugly of a girl that that's the only way she's going to get a man is to seduce Judah, the boy's daddy? Or was there more to the story? The rabbis teach that Tamar was a daughter of Shem. Now, the idea that she was a daughter or at least a granddaughter of Shem or Eber is entirely plausible. Sometimes in Hebraic thought, a son or daughter may actually be a grandson or a great-grandson or daughter, even though they are called just a son or a daughter. If this was the case, and I tend to believe that it was, I think that it reveals why Tamar was so willing to go to such lengths to be in Judah's lineage. I believe that through the teaching of her father or grandfather, Shem or Eber or both, that she understood that Judah was to be the father of the coming Son of God. She desired so much to be part of that process that she would do almost anything to get into the lineage. Isn't that a contrast with Onan, who despised the privilege and opportunity that he had to be in the lineage of Christ? Tamar was willing to risk what we would consider sin today in order to be part of the birthing of the Son of God. You see, Shem, or Melchizedek, was the behind-the-scenes priest of the family of Abraham. When Abraham was blessed, he got it from Shem, Melchizedek. He was the one who met him in the field and blessed him. When Rebekah was having a struggle in her womb because of the upcoming births of Jacob and Esau, the scripture says Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. It says she went to inquire of the Lord. Where did she go? Okay. The Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. One people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger, which is kind of contrary to the normal thing, isn't it? The elder's supposed to be in charge. And so she went to inquire of the Lord. Where did she go? I believe she went to Shem. And the revelation of the Lord to her through the prophet, priest, king of Salem, which is ancient Jerusalem, to her is also what gave her the courage to take the risk she took later in deceiving Isaac in order to ensure that the blessing went to Jacob and not Esau. You know, we hear this story of Jacob and Esau, and here Rebekah, she says, "Don't worry, your curse be upon me if this don't work. I know you're supposed to be the chosen one. You're supposed to have the blessing. Put these skins on, deceive your father." And it's contrary to everything we can imagine to how to get the blessing of God in your life. But she knew that if some action was not taken, that blessing was going to fall into the wrong hands. Because Esau was on his way back with some venison, and as soon as Esau got back, he was going to get the blessing. She had faith to say, we will go through this process to make sure Jacob gets the blessing. What caused her to think like that?
The prophecy from Shem.
But I think it was the prophecy from Shem, okay, that gave her the courage to understand that the elder should serve the younger. Therefore, the younger was entitled to the blessing. And therefore, she said, okay, it's under the gun now. We don't know if she told Isaac everything that Shem told her or not. She may have kept some of that a secret. She may have been waiting on God to reveal it to Isaac. But when she saw that it apparently wasn't going to happen, then she was there to do whatever it took to make sure the Word of God came to pass in the right way, even if it was in what we would consider a wrong way. In other words, she was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. Okay? So she had the courage to take the risk in deceiving Isaac to ensure the blessing went to Jacob, not Esau. It would be easy to understand if Tamar was raised around such men of revelation as Shem and Eber, that she could have been let in on the secret, and even given her original marriage had been arranged to bring a daughter of Shem into the lineage of Christ. See, if Shem, the priest, king of Salem, who was a prophet, who was a priest, who had this revelation and carried this blessing for 500 years after the flood, if he understood that Abraham, and then even understood that Judah was the chosen line, he could have said, okay, hey, let's get one of my daughters into the lineage, and would have helped arrange that marriage so that she would have been in the lineage of Christ. The ancient world understood better than we the value of heritage and bloodlines. Particularly in America, we have discarded the notion of nobility and the notion of pedigree in our pursuit of happiness. There was a day when marriages were pretty much arranged, even in America. You know, there was a day when you needed the father's blessing to get married. There was a day when the families took an active role because they understood the value of coming from a good heritage or a good bloodline. They understood the inheritance that comes through godly and ungodly seed. They realized that to give their children every spiritual advantage and every physical advantage, choosing the right family to marry into would help. Okay? We've discarded those notions. We think it doesn't matter. Oh, you kids just go out and fall in love. I hope you pick somebody good. Maybe parents ought to wake up and teach their children a little bit more about bloodlines and heritage. And maybe make them a little more conscious that it does matter the type of family that they choose to marry into, because you're not just marrying an individual. You're marrying a family, and you're marrying a heritage. Okay? And it does matter. Okay? The ancients understood that better than we do. Okay? The age of kings was just beginning, and Tamar wanted to be part of it. Jesus, as King of Kings, was having a heritage built for him, one of kinship, nobility, and greatness, that, as we shall see, was greater in scope than we may have previously imagined. Few of the names of the women that we know to be in the lineage of Christ, few are the names that we know to be in the lineage of Christ. Each one was important. How many do we know so far? Well, we know Eve was in the lineage of Christ, right? Sarah was Abraham's wife. She was in the lineage of Christ. Rebekah was in the lineage of Christ. Leah was Jacob's first wife, and Leah was the mother of Judah. So that puts Leah in the lineage of Christ. And now we find Tamar is in the lineage of Christ. And if Tamar was of the lineage of Shem directly, then that would explain why she was so bent on getting into the process and having the son to perpetuate the lineage, and that she be part of it. Okay? Now, in that we find that there are, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 generations. 11, 12, 13 to Judah. Okay? 13 generations to Judah. There are many times in the Bible where God pronounces a curse upon a family or a people. Okay? If you take these 13 generations here, and if you was to roughly say that instead of Shem, we had the name of Ham. And it was 13, 14 generations, okay? Well, we know that Ham was a son, or Canaan was a son of Ham. Many times, the curse that God put on a family was to last for 10 generations. said a Moabite will not enter the congregation of the Lord for 10 generations. Okay? So we find that there are 10 generations from Ham, from Canaan, to Tamar. And actually to Judah, when you back up to Judah, you end up, I think, right at 10 generations with Judah marrying the Canaanite. Because you subtract 1 here, 13 be 11, subtract 1 there, it would be 12. And then if you take in front of that, you end up with 10 or 11 generations from Ham, from Canaan. See what I'm trying to say? From Canaan to Judah trying to marry a Canaanite was 10 generations. In other words, what was God doing? He was trying to graft the family of Canaan, which had been cursed by Noah, back into the family. He waited 10 generations for it to happen. In the Bible we find expression about Jesus coming in the fullness of time. One of the reasons that took place, part of that fullness of time, is there are other conditions where there were curses put in family lines, and it took 10 more generations to graft them back in. Okay? The same principle applies to Moab with Lot, and we'll see that as we proceed. So the idea of 10 generations here from Judah to Canaan's children is, I think, significant. Why? Because God is going to make Jesus, what did Jesus refer to himself as? Most often?
Son of Man.
The Son of Man. What was God doing? God was making sure that Jesus was built of a heritage that the children of Ham could not say, "You're not my Messiah. You're not my king." And we'll see that the children of Japheth will not have a right to say, "You're not my king, you're not my Messiah," because Jesus has these bloodlines interwoven into his heritage that make him Prince of the kings of the earth and make him King of kings, Lord of lords, literally speaking, to where that he has all of it. He is related to the whole family of man, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay? And how do we learn this? In the study of the genealogy.